I learned to try everything, and especially the things I'm afraid of. Whatever I was afraid of, I did it, and I did it first, and I kept doing it until I conquered the fear. Now I'm fearless. I try everything. I've conquered everything. I may not be the best at everything, but I fear, and I have failed many times and learned from those failures, gone on to be successful.
Hello, Kevin. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Great to be here.
Beautiful, my man. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Kevin, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Kevin, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. See, some couple of months back, yeah, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Kevin, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Kevin, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Kevin. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. Here's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Kevin that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your
Wow.
insight, the impact your work is having, and now you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Kevin is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that illustration about the mango tree, too. I'll remember that.
Yeah, beautiful, my man. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Kevin, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness, ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Kevin on the show is for the sake of the audience. Say, Kevin, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of informations flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Kevin, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Kevin, over to you.
Okay. So, I have a very interesting background. First of all, I'm a lot older than I look. I'm going to be 71 in December. Most people still guess in the
71.
late 40s, early 50s.
Oh my. I want to look just like you when I get older, man.
Well, it's all actually the power of God within me
Oh, hallelujah. I love
that
that.
gives me the energy that I have. So it really is. I've learned a lot from scriptures, and that really is the way that I formed my life. Wasn't until I was about 30. The first half of my life, if you read my book, I lived a very worldly life. I wasn't a bad person, but my focus was more for me than it was on the kingdom. And then I read the scriptures and I realized that I should be living for God, and then he'll bless me and help me do great things for him. And of course, the result is that I have a very joyful life, a very positive life, and I love helping other people all the time. So I'm glad to be on the show here. I have a couple of theories in life that have guided me. And one is I believe that life is a journey, and most people think that they have to accomplish so many things in life, and it's good to accomplish things, but they feel like they have to make it to the top of a mountain, to the summit, and plant their flag before they can say that they've succeeded. And that's not true. What's great about life is about the journey. You see, it's on the way up the mountain that we learn all the things that we need in this life, all of the failures and all of the things that you don't do well, and then you learn from and you get back up and you try again. As long as you're striving and climbing and learning and all of those things, your life is best, at least for me. My life is best as I'm striving to get better, not necessarily that I've arrived and I've gotten there. When you get old and you've made millions of dollars and you've hit the top of the mountain and you've planted that flag, most old people with a lot of money do nothing but worry about losing it. You see, I really don't care about money. I care about the experience of life and growing and proceeding. And I learn so much about life, and I share with other people that same perspective. So failing is actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But the reason why I really secured that perspective in life, and I'll give you this, and I'll let you ask me some questions, because I've done many, many things in life, and I've done them on purpose. But the reason is that one of the first scriptures I looked at was a passage it was in the James chapter 4, verse 6. It might have been 6, verse 4, where it says that God gives grace to the humble, but he goes against the prideful. And I said, you know what? That's an interesting concept, that God gives grace to the humble and he goes against the prideful. And then I realized, I said, what stops people from doing things? What stops most people from trying new things, from trying to learn, from being their best? It's the fear of failure. People hate to fail. And it's not that they don't mind failing so much. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of their friends. They don't want to be humiliated. People hate to be humiliated. They're so prideful about it that they just don't try new things. They stay the way they are. And see, that is the problem. And here's what I learned from that passage. It said technically it says God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. And then I realized it, and I said, if you're humble, you can't be humiliated. It's not possible. That hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, I can only be humiliated if I'm prideful. So if I live a humble life, and I'm still working on that because I'm not always humble, but the thing is, I learned from that it's impossible to be humiliated unless you're prideful. So what I do is, from that, I learned to try everything, and especially the things I'm afraid of. Whatever I was afraid of, I did it, and I did it first, and I kept doing it until I conquered the fear. And I moved on in life exactly that way. Now I'm fearless. I try everything. I've conquered everything. I may not be the best at everything, but I fear. And I have failed many times and learned from those failures, gone on to be successful. And my journey filled a 66 episode book, 500 pages, from all the things I've done in life, because I just refused to not do what I'm afraid of and kept working at it until I was good at it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that really has been kind of a mantra for me. And that's what I teach other people. Whatever you're afraid of, do it first, keep doing it till you get past it. And you'll have a very, very exciting life. And your life will be about the journey, just like mine. So I don't know.
Profoundly said.
I'll let you ask a question or two.
And your words are really, really motivating. I tell you, the part where you mentioned that life is a journey. And that's beautifully said because we must embrace the mindset of always continuing to learn. And where you mentioned that failure is not a bad thing, but a good thing. And we truly need to develop that mindset because, truthfully speaking, failure is part of the process. If you're not gonna,
It
yeah, if
is.
you're not gonna face some tough times and some challenging situation, how do you want to grow? Hmm, I got that. And the Bible verse that you shared about the humble and the proud, that's a beautiful one. And the part where you said that if you're humble, you cannot be humiliated. Hey, Kevin, you're blessing me already. Awesome, awesome. I love that. So I've got some questions here, okay? All right, so let's begin first with this. What is one lesson from your early years that still guides you till today?
Did you say one lesson? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay, so I think it was the figuring things out on your own is a great lesson from my earlier years. If you look at one of the chapters or one of the episodes in my book, there was an early episode where my first job was a paper route. But see, I didn't have just one paper route. I had two paper routes. I had one before school and one after school. I lived in Levittown. I grew up there. And back in those days, they had newspapers that came out in the morning and that came out in the afternoon. And I was always a high energy kid who wanted to make a lot of money. So I got two paper routes. But you see, doing a paper route back in the day, you had to get past certain difficulties. One of them was that I had a dog on my route that was named Jaja. And that dog would bite me every time I went into that yard to deliver that paper. And you see, back in the 60s, and this is what's great about the 60s, different than from today. You see, today, if you have a dog on your paper route, kids don't deliver papers anymore anyway, but if they did, and you had a dog that bit you, you would tell your parents would get all upset. They'd probably hire a lawyer and sue the person that owned the house or something like that. Or they'd call that person up and they'd tell them, you got to take that dog and get him inside. You can't have him biting my son. You see, today, all the helicopter parents solve all the kids' problems. But you see, back in the 60s, I went and tell my mother, hey, Mom, I got this paper out and I've got this dog that keeps biting me every day. What should I do? And my mom would say, hey, it's your paper out. Figure it out. You see, they put it back on me. And I was like, oh, so mom and dad aren't going to fix this for me. Back in the 60s, they told you it's your job, you figure it out. So I had to be creative and figure out how to solve the problem. And if you read the chapter, I did. I got a buddy to go with me. We got a shopping cart. I put all the papers in the shopping cart. And when I got to that one house with that fence with that bad dog, my buddy would swing open the fence and roll the cart in, and I was in the cart, and the dog was jumping, but he couldn't get me. I was in the cart, and I'd roll up to the door, and I'd pull myself up. I'd open the screen door, and I'd put the paper in the door knocker, and I'd push off the door and roll back down. And when I got close to the fence, I'd dive out of the cart over the fence, and the dog wouldn't bite me. You see, I had to solve my own problem. And I guess the thing that I'm saying is that I learned at a young age is you can't depend on other people to solve your problems for you. If you run into a problem, you got to figure it out yourself. And that enabled me to develop a very critical mind, problem-solving mind from 10 years old on. And that has helped me through my entire life. I've always figured out my own problems. I didn't depend on others. So there you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I got that. And I see what your parent did is actually very awesome. They're not allowing you to depend on them for this, survival. When you find yourself in critical situations that they're not with you, you've got to sort it out yourself. And that's a wonderful one. And that mindset have been of a great help for me too. I tell you, I always rely on the Holy Spirit for everything, everything. And it's been very, very effective and productive. So I got you. Okay, so what about this one, my man? What do you wish more entrepreneurs understood about mental health?
About mental health.
That's right.
Okay, well, mental health is an interesting angle because now when I was younger, 18, 19 is when I started having depressions. And I didn't know what it was. And one of the things, because I was so self-dependent, and this was before I really started depending on God. I was younger and I was very self-dependent. I thought it wasn't a big deal. I thought only people that were weak went to doctors to get diagnosed about mental health. Back in the 70s, if you got depressed, you didn't tell anybody. You hid it. You didn't want people to think you were some
Yeah.
loser who got depressions. You didn't go to a doctor and try to get it figured out. That was very bad. You see, now we realize you get depressed, you need to get some help. You need to go to a professional. You need to get diagnosed and find out what's going on in your head, because you see, there's nothing wrong with having a doctor help you with something. It's not laziness. It's not a weak character. It's a mental disease when you get depression. And you should not be ashamed of that. You should not be ashamed to get help. But see, back in the 70s, and I was very entrepreneurial, I wasn't going to go to anybody for help. So when it came to solving my own problems in business, that was good that I stood up on my own 2 feet, picked myself up by the bootstraps and solved my own problems. But when it came to mental health and depressions, as an entrepreneur, I should have realized that I need to get help. Sometimes you do need to get the help. Same thing with biblical things. Sometimes I do need to depend on God. Sometimes God wants me to figure it out. Sometimes he wants me to depend on him to guide me, or the Holy Spirit to guide me. So with mental health, the thing that entrepreneurs who are very self-sufficient like I was need to learn is that there are times when you have to go get medical help when you're not feeling good, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. As a matter of fact, it's the best way to fix you. And it's also setting a good example for others, because there's a lot of people who think that getting help with a mental disease is kind of a wimpy thing to do. No, it's not. It's a very important thing to do.
I got that. And that was beautifully said. Thank you for explaining it that way. Okay, so what about this one? How can beginners get started in real estate without feeling overwhelmed?
That's a great insight, because people do feel overwhelmed, not just real estate, but with anything they do that's new. But I can tell you this, if you look at one of my chapters, I can't remember which one it is in my book. It's I was in a rock band. I was a hippie. I had long hair. And then I was in a rock band until I was almost 30 years old. I never went to college. I was a street kid from Queens. So I had a lack of confidence when it came to doing things in the white collar world. Yet I was very good with numbers, and I was very good with people. And what's interesting is what most people need to realize is that there's no reason to be overwhelmed or intimidated by real estate, because you only need 2 things for real estate: good with numbers, good with people. That makes you a very good candidate for the real estate business. Most people don't realize how simple it is. You don't need college for real estate. But if you're a guy that's a friendly guy, people like doing business with people they like. It's really that simple. And I love people. I've always been a people person, and I've always been great with numbers. I'm just a natural guy with numbers. So for me, real estate was a natural, but I saw it as an intimidation, because I go into an office and I got hired by a real estate guy, and I had to wear a suit and tie, and I'm with all these college graduates, all these Harvard grads, and these guys were intimidating to me. These guys were smart guys who they knew all about college football. They knew all about golf. But I knew nothing about those things. College football to me was a bunch of acronyms. I couldn't figure it out because I didn't go to college. Golf, I hate golf. I'm not good at golf. But what I found out was that they weren't any smarter than me. I was just as smart as they were once I started getting into the numbers and things like that. And that gave me great confidence. So the first thing you got to do is realize if you're built for real estate, it's because you're good with people and you're good with numbers. Now, if you're not good with numbers, then real estate's not for you. And if you're like an introvert and you don't like people, well, then real estate's not for you neither. Now, there are portions of real estate. If you're not a people person, but you're a numbers person, you could be an analyst. That's good. If you're a people person, you should be on the front lines making deals and doing developments. And if you're creative, it's even better. So you should never think or be intimidated on going into a job, and especially if you don't have college like I didn't. As far as I was concerned, I thought I was a loser because I had no college, and I thought these guys were smarter than me. And I found out pretty quickly that they weren't any smarter than me. As a matter of fact, I found out pretty quickly that I was actually smarter than most of them.
Mm,
So
mm.
anyway, at least in real estate. So that's how I found out.
You've got to be good with numbers
So
and
it's a
good with people.
yep, it's that simple.
Wow, I got that. So talk to us about your book, all right? What is the inspiration behind it and what is the title?
Here we go. It's called Book of Me. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
Book of
beautiful
Me.
cover.
It says the life and times of Kevin Hypes, the New York Forrest Gump. So people say, well, wait a minute. What do you mean the New York Forrest Gump? What does that mean? It's very simple. You see, I'm a little bit like Forrest Gump. I had a mental situation. I'm bipolar, which means I'm very manic and I could be very depressed the next day. Now, it took me 30 years to realize that. So I went through some very difficult depressions until I figured that out and got on the right medication. But so I had issues. But the reality is, because I learned from the scriptures that I should just do everything I'm afraid of, I did a million different things, just like Forrest Gump. He just got into all these situations and he became good at a lot of things he did. And so did I. And he wasn't afraid to try stuff out, and neither was I. Listen, Forrest owned a shrimp boat. Well, I owned an oil tanker in the Caribbean. I actually did. And all of my stories are true. So I thought being a New York Forrest Gump would be a pretty good way to go and a way to write the book. So I wrote the book in a series of interesting, funny stories of all of my adventures, many of which I failed horribly at. But I got back up, learned from it, and tried again. So the book is called Book of Me, The Life and Times of Kevin Hypes, the New York Forrest Gump. And you can get it right now on Amazon. Just put in Book of Me, Kevin Hypes. Or you can actually write or watch the entire book. How I wrote my book was a very interesting way of writing a book. I'm too high energy to sit still and write a book. It's very hard for me to sit still that long. So what I did was I opened up a YouTube channel and I told each and every one of my stories into the camera, sitting right behind this desk, just like this, in 66 episodes. And I downloaded them into a manuscript. And that's how I wrote the book. So you could actually go on my YouTube page called Planet Hypes, and you can watch every single episode of my book live with me telling it in the story just like I'm talking now. And I'm a very animated guy, so it's actually more fun to watch the videos. But the book gives a lot more detail. But I did it off the top of my head. So I'm very proud of the book because it shows everything I've done from 5 years old to 70 years old. And I'm not done yet, so I'm going to have to write another book, I guess, because I've already got a lot more stories.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that's what the book's about.
Wow, amazing. You're not done yet. Exactly.
No.
So to bring this to an end, my man, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or make a purchase of your wonderful books, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
You could email me at Kevin at hcbrealestate.com. Or you can go on my real estate webpage, which is hcbrealestate.com. And you can find me there. I've got a lot of different web pages and things. Or there's many ways to get a hold of me. Read the book, and it's got identification stuff inside the book too. And I've also recorded. I was in a rock band. And I recorded songs. I have 20 songs on Spotify that were professionally recorded that are on Spotify that I recorded 45 years ago, and they're great songs. And the name of the band is called The End. So if you just Google The End, Kevin Hypes, you'll probably find some of my songs. So I've done a lot of great things, but I'm also not very good on social media. I'm an old guy. I have to hire people to do all that kind of stuff for me. But anyway, I'll leave you with this last thought. One of the things that I did learn is that, when I was young and I was kind of skinny and little, and I really was kind of shy when I was real young. And I said I never thought, I just thought I wasn't a quality guy. I thought I wasn't very good at many things. And I thought that maybe I was disappointing to the people around me. I thought maybe I was even not as good as the people around me. You know, confidence is a big thing. When you're young, you don't have a lot of that. And if people don't give you confidence, you have very little self esteem. Well, let me tell you something. This is what I learned from the scriptures, that God made every one of us very special, sometimes in many, many, many different ways. But I know that God made me special. And what I tell other people is God made you special too. I may think I'm special. I wrote a book about my life story. And you know what? I'm not any more special than you are. You've got just as many great stories to tell. You just got to think about it, write them down, and you can write a book too. So I think you depend on the big guy upstairs, and you let the Holy Spirit guide you, and you just let nothing stop you, fear nothing, do everything you're afraid of. And, you know, you can have an interesting life, and it doesn't matter if you make a lot of money. As long as you make a good living and you work hard and take care of your family and you live the big guy upstairs, you're going to do just fine.
Very
There it is.
inspiring. Very, very inspiring. And I got that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Kevin. Thank you for coming. And thank you for sharing these beautiful stuffs with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you. Oh,